Well, good evening, good evening, good evening. My name is Celeste Payne. I'm the founder of the Wow Pages for Business and Professional Women, a directory where women can network together, they can shop other women's products, they can share their own products, and we grow together. And tonight is a part of our growth process. And so I'm excited about that. I'm also a arts educator and a therapeutic art life coach. And I'm your host tonight for Empower Now, where we're empowering women, we're encouraging them, and we're also providing resources through the experiences of the great women I have to interview today. They're going to be able to share some things to help keep you in line with your purpose. And so today we're going to have an in-depth conversation about overcoming disappointments and obstacles and some of those setbacks that we all have encountered. And that question is, how do I come back from a setback? So I have some wonderful ladies with me today. I'm going to bring them on in. I'll put us all together. Yeah, there we go. All righty. So we have Miss Breonna Baker, Dr. Dionne Smith. I love Dr. D's Motivate Me D segment. She's going to tell you about those. And then we have Monica Jones here. We are all a part of the She Conquerors book tour, which was kind of put together as we are all co-authors of Powerful Affirmations, a success tool for kingdom business women. And we're all kingdom business women or striving to be that and doing work in the kingdom to help motivate women to move forward. So we're going to go, Breonna, Dr. D, and then Miss Jones. We're going to let you introduce yourself, tell them all about you, and just give them an idea of who you are.
Hello, everybody. I am Breonna Baker. I am an educator, business consultant. I have a company, Streamline Media Agency, where we help small business owners keep their content going and keep them looking excellent and professional. I am just someone who is excited, energetic, and enjoys networking. So I'm excited to be here with you all tonight.
Of Christian therapists. I'm so excited to be here. I am the CEO of Made Whole Counseling, and I host, I don't even know what to call it. So look, maybe Miss Baker can help me. My social media platform is Motivate Me D, where I inspire people to grow in their mental wellness on social media, and I'm so glad to be here.
Hello, everybody. I'm Monica Regina Jones, and I am employed with UNC Lenore Healthcare as an environmental services, aka housekeeper, where basically that is my pulpit. I'm also an ordained minister. I'm an author of now 5 books. My first book was God's Humble Voice, Transparency Heals, Surrender Vessels, Turbulence, and now the best-selling Kingdom Affirmations of FemPreneurs. So I'm just excited to be here amongst this greatness that I'm with tonight.
It was a great process for us going through that book publishing. And I'm glad that we all were able to meet up and be able to speak into the lives of the women who will be listening today. So I want to jump into this conversation about overcoming disappointments, obstacles, and setbacks. And I was just looking up what a setback was, and it is considered a reversal. It seems like when you're moving forward and then something sets you back and pull you back. And then, of course, obstacles are things like when we're on a specific pathway and there's some type of obstruction in the way. And you got to make some choices as far as what you're going to do when you hit those obstacles. And then, of course, those disappointments where we have an expectation of things that we want and we desire, and then it doesn't work out the way we think it should work out. And then we end up feeling some kind of way. I don't know about y'all, but I do. So the first question I want to propose is, what do you all do when it seems like when you're moving forward and then something comes and pushes you back? That's my first question. It's like, how do you handle that? And if you have an example of one, you can give one, and what you did to actually move forward from a setback. So we're going to start with you, Miss Jones. We're going to let you go first.
Okay, well, for me personally, my setback was when I first started writing books. I I had an issue with marketing and I had an issue with support. So the last time I wrote a book was in 2017, and I laid it down for like 4 years because there was so much stuff going on, and I got discouraged also.
Mm-hmm.
But what allowed me to start back writing is because Miss Breonna Baker, she sent me the link, and I just was like, why not? I said I hadn't written in a while, and it was just another chance to just start back over. So I just took that leap of faith, and I just took that chance, and I just started back, and when I did that, that's when things started moving. So it's all about, no matter how long it's been, just keep going, make that effort to go forward anyway.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you said about taking that leap of faith, because sometimes we can't see the progress, and I like what you said too about laying something down, because sometimes we might have to lay it down, but then knowing that you got to take that leap to keep going. So that's awesome. What about
Right.
you, Breonna?
Yeah, for me, a situation where I felt a setback was in school. Actually, I didn't do well in biology. It was a setback. I had to take it over, and I realized then, you know what, Brianna, maybe nursing isn't for you, and in that I had to seek out a career counselor. So even in that setback, I was able to get back on a path of something I'm interested in, which is educating children. So even in that setback, I turned that bad moment into a good moment and realized sometimes you do have to repeat things. Sometimes you have to start over and do it over to gain that clarity and that knowledge that you missed the first time. So anybody out there who might have made a mistake, it's okay. That's why they made erasers.
Yes. Yes, that's why they made erasers. Look, I'm an art teacher, and I'm like, you're going to own your mistakes. Your mistakes are going to be beautiful masterpieces. So for some of them, I don't even let them use erasers, but I like that we can erase some things and move forward. That's great. Dr. D?
Oh, I can think of so many setbacks, right? But I came through them all. One in particular, I was graduating with my master's degree, and in order to become a licensed therapist, you have to take the NCE exam. And leading up to the exam, I kept saying out of my mouth, I'm not a good test taker. I don't do well with standardized. I literally called the failure into existence. I called it. I sat down with it. I ate dinner with it. And then it just so happened to manifest. So I failed the first time. And because of the fact that I did not change my thought, it took me 10 years. Can somebody in the audience say that? It took 10 years and a push from some of my colleagues to say, D, oh my God, go take the test again. Now, mind you, I stopped using those same words to say, like, oh, I'm not a good test taker, blah, blah, blah. And I just quietly, without telling people, went to go take the test so that I wouldn't psych myself out and that I wouldn't allow anyone else to psych me out. And when I went to go take the test, I was one of the first ones to finish. And when I saw the word pass, I had to say, wait, is this for real? So I just want to encourage someone that sometimes setbacks happen because of our environment. Sometimes setback happens because God is saying wait. Sometimes a setback happens because God is saying no. And then sometimes a setback happens because we have psyched ourselves out of our own blessing. I believe that I would have passed the first time, but I spoke the failure into existence. So I want to encourage somebody. Don't allow your mouth to become your enemy.
Ooh, My God, yes. Don't allow, so we talk so much about haters and people hating on us and people talking about us. But what about the things that we say to ourselves, that negative self-talk, psyching ourselves out of opportunities? But the great thing is that God is a redeemer, and he still allowed you to pass that test and still allowed you to catch up and be successful in your business, counseling. That's awesome. I can say one of my setbacks, and I like what you said about the timing. So several years ago, I wanted to move. I taught elementary school. That's all I've taught for since 2011. In 2010, I got picked to take this fellowship and be certified to teach in Florida. And so I taught elementary from then until a couple years ago. But I wanted to move to another grade. And so I got hyped because I had an interview with the school. I interviewed before the time, the year before, the district won't let you change after April the 15th. But they posted the jobs April the 16th. That was kind of shady right there. So they still wouldn't let me apply for the job. So I was very disappointed. I felt like I'm going to be stuck here forever. My heart is with the high school. So I got an opportunity to interview the next year, and then they still told me I couldn't move. So I said, Lord, I need this job. And so, long story short, they're supposed to let you know by April the 15th when you're transferred. July the 19th, which is like 2 weeks before school started of that year, I got a text when I was on my way back from a trip saying, you have been transferred. And it was a setback, but the first school I wanted to go to wasn't for me. The second school for me that I went to was for me. That's where I am now. And I love my job. I love what I'm doing. So I love when you say about the timing, because sometimes we want something before God is ready to release it. And so that was awesome. That environment, sometimes you got to wait. Sometimes he's saying no. And sometimes we psych ourselves out. So my next question is talking about obstacles. And what comes to mind for me was I had to drive. I didn't have to. I just did it. I drove from Louisiana all the way to Ohio, which is 16 hours. Mm-hmm. But one of the signs I saw, and this was crazy because they had my name. It said Detour Celeste on it. That's what it said on the sign. So I stopped and I took a picture of that sign, of course. But the obstacle was we couldn't go through that road. We had to make a detour. And so what I want to know about is any obstacles or detours that you had to make. Breonna shared one, but any obstacles or detours that you've had to make and how you kept your mind right in the midst of it. Of course, after it's over, we're like, okay, God did it. But what do you do in the midst while you're going through the steps? Dr. D, can you answer that?
Yes, it's weird because your mind goes through so many pages of things. Like, oh, I don't think I want to tell that. But I would say obstacles have and I'll say like broken heart. Sometimes a loved one passing away, mm-hmm. or a relationship that ends. Like you're on a path to building your career and self-esteem and all of these things, and then unexpectedly something leaves you. Mm-hmm. And so therefore there's an emotional obstacle. That's mm-hmm. kind of, I guess, the way I'm coming from it. Mm-hmm. There's an emotional obstacle, and the enemy would like to make you feel like you're now crippled, you're mm-hmm. unable emotionally to move forward. And yes, there is an anointed pause mm-hmm. that God has ordained, but that does not mean God says stop. And so sometimes if we can hone in that, okay, you might have to pause to grieve. And I mean, I'm speaking to everybody in this season who have dealt with COVID. And I mean, I'm sure your timeline has people who have passed, and it's heartbreaking. And emotionally, you want to say, is it worth it? Mm-hmm. And you might have to pause, but you just can't stop. And so the emotional obstacle is there because when you grieve, Or when you have a broken heart, you want to lay in bed, want
Mhm.
some ice cream. I wanted to eat my chips, Lay's, the yellow bag,
Yes.
the big yellow bag, and my ginger ale, and you want to stop. But God says, but I have healing for your sorrow.
Mhm.
I have healing for your pain. Therefore, I was able to move that emotional obstacle, move through it to the place of healing.
And I think sometimes people don't realize that process is just that
Mhm.
process. Like some things we have to go through and get through to get to our next place. And so that's great that it's okay to pause. Like if you're under his shadow, if I pause, I'm still under his shadow. He's not going to be mad. I think people think that God wants you always in a rush or always you got to be doing something, but sometimes pausing is the will of God.
Yes.
And healing is the will of God. We know healing is the will of God. So that is awesome. Miss Jones, can you share a little bit?
One of my main obstacles I had to get over was myself.
Mm,
And what I mean by that is just the whole not thinking you're enough, thinking that uh, everybody else is qualified but you, that you can't do certain things because it's been embedded in your mind from childhood, things that people have said to you and how people have reacted towards you. But God had to tell me that, he called me to do his will. And I have to do his will. And even in the little things, even in my job, like he uses me as that's like my pulpit, like I said before, because I'm interacting with people every single day. And even this is small things like a smile or a kind gesture, a friendly word, whatever. It's even in the small things. He's like, I created you the way that I did for a purpose. And your assignment, it varies from day to day. So I really had to get over myself and I really had to just accept who I am in him. So that's basically about it.
hmm So that's, I think, a key point is accepting who he created you to be and not trying to live up to what the pattern. Because when you're a trailblazer, there is no pattern. There's
Right.
no pattern to follow. There's no and one thing that you said, and I'm just going to put this out there because you said you're a housekeeper.
Right.
Yeah, and so what's great about that is God allows you to deal with people's mess in
Right.
the natural, which is an
Mm-hmm.
opening for helping people deal with their mess spiritually. So that's a
Right.
ministry all by itself.
Yes, it is every single day. Like it's just funny. I mean, I go in people's room, they're like, "Oh my God, you have such a sweet spirit," and they just start opening up to me and talking to me,
Mhm.
and God will lead me to pray for some of them and stuff like that. So it's definitely a ministry. It's definitely a
Mhm.
ministry, definitely serving, but it's on a different level. I
Yeah.
don't look at the menial job, but because so many, it gets tiring, and but at the same time, it's a ministry though.
Sounds very rewarding. And I encourage those of you who are listening, find out what that thing is that God is calling you to do and be okay with doing that. Be okay with that. Don't feel like you have to do extra because God's going to anoint that thing that he called you to do. Brianna, how about you?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here just taking in this great information of how we overcome by
Yeah.
the words of our testimony. I think the obstacle that I experienced in life was just honestly that self-sabotaging. Like
Mm-hmm.
not honestly doing the thing, but then telling
Mm-hmm.
myself I can't do the thing I'm actually doing. I believe that it actually really just happened before we got on live. Like I'm telling myself, is it how's this school year gonna go? What's the outcome gonna be? And it's almost like I have to get over my mental obstacle that it's not going to flow like I wanted to flow. Yes, there are factors that we have to face, but we almost cut off the blessing before we get there. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean, everybody said it, but it's just literally, I just live what y'all said, just getting over my own mindset about something and thinking more positively. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This year is a doozy, and we got to be ready to adapt. That's one of my words for this year is being flexible and adaptable. And it's hard when you're used to things being like this, and it look like it's going like this. But guess what? We serve a God that can take us through the roller coaster as well as through smooth sailing. So I want to talk to you and about Christmas break and just see how you've overcome through those through those days. So one of the other things that I wanted to ask you all is if you could talk to a person who has just like totally given up. They one of the ones like Dr. D said that had their Lay's, their ice cream up in the bed. They've been discouraged by people. Their self-esteem is ripped to shreds. They have no desire to do anything, but they are gifted, talented. What kind of word would you speak to them? Or what would you do for them? Because I know sometimes our actions help at just as much as our words. So, Breonna, what would you say to that person who says they can't?
Yeah, the reminder will be I want to be able to speak the reflection of who you really are, because I think sometimes we forget what we have, because like the old song say, I'm too close to the mirror to see what he sees in me. And I believe sometimes we have to be the mirror for our sister or for our brother to show them you are what God says you are, despite what you're going through currently. So that will be my encouraging word, to remind them of the good and know that this too shall pass, and getting the lesson out of what's happening. Because sometimes we get so upset and I'm down, I'm out, but there's a lesson by the struggle. There's a lesson through the struggle. And getting that lesson is going to bless somebody else. I always tell people I have to break through so you can break through. So you got to break through so we all can get out of it.
Amen. Amen. What about you, Miss Jones?
I would basically tell the affirmation that the Lord gave me. I am investment worthy. I would tell them they're investment worthy because God is the ultimate investor. He invested in us every single gift, every single talent. And like the word says, we have treasure in these earthen vessels. And there's always more to us than meets the eye. So I would just encourage them to understand that they are not their circumstance or their situation, that it's only temporary, and that they can get through it with God, because this situation is out. It's not if it's not final, it's not fatal. So that's basically what I would tell them. I mean, because I had to learn that too. God had to tell me that I was investment worthy because I felt like I wasn't for a long time. And ever since God gave me that word, I've been standing on that. So that's what I would tell them.
So you just said if it's not final, it's not fatal. Is that what you said? Or did you say?
If it's not, well, I'm gonna say if it's not fatal, it's not final. If it didn't cost them their life, it's not
Yes.
final. It's not over.
Yes. If it's not fatal, it's not final. If I can breathe after it, if I can stand up after it, it didn't take me out, I can still move forward. Oh, yes.
Exactly.
I love that. I love
Got
that.
it from my pop.
All right, Dr. D.
So I'm just reminded of the scripture that we overcome by the blood of the lamb and by the words of our testimony. And sometimes when you are really deep down in despair and you're like, I'm going to potato chip this life until I go home to be with Jesus, that type of depression, you have to remember what he's already done. And sometimes, I know I can talk, baby. I could sell you your own saliva. I promise you that. But in order sometimes to make that mental connection for somebody, they have to remember the things they've already been through. When he said you overcome by the words of you make that person speak out what God has already brought you through. I promise you, They are going to have 3 powerful testimonies, and they're going to say, if it had not been
Yes.
for the Lord who was on my side. And because of that, if God brought you through that, he will bring you through this. And now get up. And then I love what my sister said. Are you dead yet? Well, let's go. You got things to do, friend. But I would absolutely make them start with reciting what God has already done for them.
I'm glad you said that, because I would say probably maybe it was during that beginning of the second year of we got out in March, and then we went back to school in August. And, I was feeling kind of like with the things I was trying to do business wise, I didn't have a support system, and I was getting into that, oh, woe is me type moment. And I literally heard God say, get a pencil and write down every person that's ever supported you. Write them down and what role they played. And after I finished writing, I had a full page of people and resources that I could call on. And like, that was a lie that was trying to take me down to a place that I might not have been able to dig myself out of. And so I agree with that. Make them say what God has done. Who has he connected you to? You worried about who is not connected. Who has he connected you to? What resources has he opened up for you? One of my favorite scriptures is, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and they that dwell therein. So even in business, my customers don't have to be right here, right next to me. The earth is the Lord's, and he has provided resources from all continents, countries. Cash App can go all, we can wire transfer. We can do all kinds of Bitcoin, whatever it is you got. We can get it from all different nations. And I think that's even with our connections and with the people, that the resources that he puts together, not just financial, but personal. We're not limited. Like, if we have not learned anything from this pandemic, you are not limited by your location. This is a global, it's almost like he threw us into, we heard people say, I got a worldwide ministry. Well, guess what? We have been pushed into a global marketplace, just because of this pandemic. And so I'm excited about that. Ladies, it has been great. What I want to do with you all before we leave is I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get in contact with each of you. Because I'm sure that where Ms. Jones is, someone was like, oh my goodness, she could come and sign a contract with me and bring that anointing into my house. And Breonna gonna be 6-figure or more, replacing her school income with that social media, because so many people don't know how to. I literally talked this the second Dr. D said she needs some help, and I literally was talking to another lady today who said she needed help with just that. And Dr. D, some of them need some virtual. Because you do virtual appointments, right?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. And you're always so inspiring. So what we're going to do is, Ms. Jones, you will go first. Dr. D, you can go next, and then Breonna. And just let them know how they can contact you.
Okay, I'm on Facebook. My whole name, Monica Regina Jones. I'm also on Instagram. Monreg Jones, MonRegJon. And I'm also on Clubhouse, but I don't really remember if it's MonRegJon or because it's like so much. So you can also email me at jonesmonica564@yahoo.com as well.
All righty, thank you.
Okay, if you would like to reach me, I'm on Facebook under Dionne Croz, CROZ-Smith. On Instagram, I am motivate_me_D. And my website is www.madewholecounseling.com. I'm also on Clubhouse as Dr. D Smith, Dr. D-E-E Smith. So contact me, or you could just send me a message any kind of way.
Yes, and again, I'm Breonna Baker, and you can find me on Facebook at Breonna Baker. Also on Instagram, Mrs. Breonna Baker, and my social media for my business is Streamline Media Agency.
Awesome, awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited about this. I'm enjoying this platform. This is a stretch out for me doing this kind of stuff, but I kind of feel like I'm having fun doing it, and I want to do some more interviews. Again, my name is Celeste Payne. I'm the founder of the Wow Pages for Business and Professional Women. You can visit us at www.thewowpages.com. I invite you women-owned businesses to come on and join us as a free member. And then also you can check out my other ventures, my art, my graphics, the life coaching at celesteempowers.com. And we're going to be back here in 2 more weeks with another interview with some other ladies that are going to inspire you, encourage you, and keep you on the path of purpose. Thank you again for joining us. Let's say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, guys. Love you.